Let's see.
Recording in progress.
We're
Okay,
live.
we're live. So, the first question I have for you is I'm interested to know about like the first time when you came across the fact that there is an opportunity to have a business online or even work online, um, and how that was for you. Because I find that people always have a funny story, like how they found out and how they felt and what really motivated them to get into it.
Yeah, for sure. So I've always been interested in something greater, knowing as a child, I knew that I didn't want to go to college. I didn't want to
Mm.
have a traditional job. Um, for me, I wanted to be a professional athlete. When I was about 15, 14, 15, I started learning a lot about entrepreneurship, business. I remember one summer, I think maybe when I was 15, I spent my entire summer poolside in the neighborhood, the little rinky-dinky pool that the neighborhood had, um, just reading books because I went to the library and I rented like 30, 40 books, all on business, all on self-development, entrepreneurship, and I
Like
just studied
Rich
that like
Dad,
crazy.
Poor Dad, and
Huh?
like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and
Actually, not even Rich Dad Poor Dad.
no,
Books that weren't necessarily mainstream, actually. A lot of it was just like general stuff. Honestly, I couldn't even name you. I have one book that I ended up buying because I liked it so much. But even now that I read it, I'm like, it's not that good. And it's probably an
at,
author that
at
sold.
15, at 15 you were impressed. You were like, that's good.
Yeah, I was really impressed with it. Because yeah, the library, it's not like a nice one, so it didn't really have all the mainstream books or anything like that. It was weird stuff that if I mentioned any titles, you wouldn't recognize it at all. Um, but yeah, so I did that. I got really interested in business, and it just fueled my desire for something bigger and wanting more control and freedom or whatever. And then I got hooked into YouTube, and I was just
Mm.
watching videos all the time. And I would just search, like how to make money online. And what popped up, not gonna name the guy, but there's this guy that posted car videos, like video edits. He wasn't a car guy, he's just someone who did videography and he was making money. And I came across him probably that same summer. I was 15, 16, and he was maybe a few months younger than me, and he was already making like six figures a year, just doing videography. And I always loved creating content. I used to create like my own fitness videos, not like tutorials or anything, but just like cool fitness edits. And when I saw that and I saw that he was making money with it, I'm like, oh, this is this is very interesting. I'd like to do that, but there's a huge barrier. I don't have any sort of skills and I don't necessarily know yeah, videography, right? So I don't have money for equipment. I'm not going to do any of that. Fast forward a few months, uh, I landed on e-commerce. I'm like, I'm going to make this happen. I didn't do drop shipping. I I created like a clothing line, uh, called Mind Over Body. Very fitting for my character. And that is what I rolled with. I spent, I think, $800, maybe $2,000 that I had saved up for a very long time. And I bought the shirts. I even I printed out like the designs and I would get an iron and iron them out onto the shirt. And I would sell them. I tried to sell it online. I think I maybe got three sales online. I didn't know what I was doing. And then I just started going to everyone I knew in person. I was like, hey, I got this shirt. It's on half price now if you want to buy it. And people purchased it mainly to support me, not because I had like an actual product market fit or anything. Um, in the grand scheme of things, I lost about $200, which was a big deal to me, obviously, back then. And and then from there, I quickly realized like, oh, I need to learn marketing. Like, how come I only had 10 visitors and those out of those 10 unique visitors, 8 of them were family. Like, what's going on? And I realized like, okay, I gotta run ads. I'm like, okay, shit, well, how do you run ads? And so I ended up doing that, learned about marketing, blah blah blah, got into it, and and yeah, that's kind of how I got into online business. Just failed with e-commerce and then realized I gotta learn how to market. And then that ended up just being my thing. I learned how to market so well, I did it for other e-com brands and made my money, and that's what I did.
So it started with some books from the library. What would
Yeah.
you say was like your why at the time? Because obviously, as a 15-year-old, your priorities are different.
Yeah. So my why at the time was so okay. It wasn't for money. It was for having a sense of control of my life. And this is because growing up, there's a lot of things that happened. Um, but there was one particular thing that I'm not going to dive deep into because it's very personal and I don't think I'm ready to share that yet. But there's this event that happened when I was 13, 14, that affected me so much that it made me want to have control of every aspect of my life. I couldn't have any unknown variables because to me, I felt like then I had no control of anything, right? Like, uh, life would control me. So
That's how control freaks are born.
it's my villain story or whatever it's going. Um, but no, so that's kind of was my biggest reason. It's like if I go to college, that's someone telling me I got to go to college. That's them controlling my life. What's going to happen after college? Maybe I get lucky and I have an idea, start a business, but I don't know. I didn't really see that as an option. Especially I was going to go to college for computer science. So like you're going to be working an actual job, a W-2. And I was like, okay, well, once I have a W-2, what's life going to look like? Even if I'm doing computer science and making a quarter million a year, what's life like? Well, it's going to be 10 hours coding and programming and software engineer and all this crap. Like, no, as much as I enjoy that, because I study it on my own now, I thoroughly enjoy it, but I do it when I feel like it. Um, and so I thought about that. I'm like, no, I can't do that. And also at the time, the only option I saw for myself was becoming a professional soccer player. That was the most promising thing I had. And but I also realized could probably be a part of the way as well. First was control. Second was professional athlete. Being a professional athlete is not forever. I had already had some serious injuries. They weren't stopping me, but I knew that as I got older, my risk will be increased for a career-ending event, I guess. And so that was kind of my thinking. It's like I need full control of my life. And again, if I have a career-ending injury, I need to know what my next step is going to be. And when I saw the entrepreneurship and I was learning about it, whatever, and I saw how it fulfilled my competitive desires as well, um, it fulfilled the aspect of working towards something, experiencing the failures, iterating on it, because that's what happens in sport all the time. Uh, it just seemed like the natural progression in my life.
That makes sense. And I like how I almost feel like there's like our generation, we get into this super young because I remember I think I had my first moment of being like, okay, I don't like the way my life is going when I was 13. I remember I was laying in my bed, like about to, go to sleep because I have school the next day. And I was like, dude, what is the point of life? Like, we just work, do the same job every single day. Obviously, I was looking at my parents who that's what they were doing at the time, just, going to work at the same time, complaining about their job, making ends meet at the end of the month. And I was like, why do we do that? And why do we do it in? So my biggest problem was London. I was like, why do we choose to do this in London? Why can't we do this in Hawaii? Like, same thing, different place, Like I was literally thinking to myself, when I grow up, I'm gonna go to Hawaii and I'm gonna work in a hotel and I'm gonna live on the beach. And it was so funny because I didn't realize I had more options. Obviously, I didn't even know university was a thing. Like, I had no clue university, like higher education existed.
Yeah.
So I was just like, if I'm gonna be like working any job, I can just go to a place that I like. And I think that kind of like this sense of, right, life is just, it's just this. Like, we might as well make it something more, kind
Yeah.
of stayed with me. And then the first time I came across like online business, I was at university actually. I found out university was a thing like much later on, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna do that. Like that gives me like higher chances of doing something with my life. And I was at university, and this Facebook ad that came up, and it was this guy from Thailand, and like he wasn't from Thailand, but he lived in Thailand, and he filmed a video in Thailand, and he was like flying a drone and like waving at the drone or something. And the copy was, talking about this, like, hey, the laptop lifestyle and all of that stuff. And he talked about how, he didn't go to university and whatever. It was like the typical underdog story, like, you know,
Yeah.
um, and then he became a millionaire. And I was like, wow, this guy like solves all like literally the copy solved like touched all my pain points and like just presented this ideal lifestyle to me. And my thing was freedom. Like I really wanted to feel that, like the control as well, like to feel like I decide where I live. I decide what I
Mhm.
do with my days. Um, and I have the control and like I am somebody in my own life because when I looked around me, I felt like nobody was like played and like nobody was an
There's
authority.
your balloons again.
Like I felt like nobody was an authority in their own lives. I felt
Yeah.
like everybody was not the main player of their own story, which kind of made me sad. And I was like, I want to be the main player of my story where I actually call the shots and I'm not just like working away for somebody until I die. So that kind of leads me into the next question, which is about like the beginnings, because a lot of people listening to this will be thinking the same, like they have their own reasons, right? And maybe it's not money, maybe it's also that control, freedom, whatever. And when we start like going into the online business world, there are a lot of challenges. Like for new people that have no clue about business, that have no clue about marketing, that have no clue about investing, you have a lot of options and each option brings its own challenges. So I want you to share, like obviously you shared a little bit of the story with the t-shirts and how you quickly found out that it's not as easy as you thought. Um, so I want you to share like some of the challenges that you experienced going into this space and the biggest lessons or like the hardest lessons you had to learn.
I mean, everything. I went in with zero knowledge of anything, so books can only teach you so much. Um, I don't know, the biggest things I had to learn from a tactical perspective was sales, the skill that I was offering. It started for a few months with social media management. Then I quickly pivoted to Facebook ads, and that went really well for 5 years. Um, and then I've pivoted to email, which I think is golden. Um,
No,
yeah.
but it's like the horror stories. Like I want to hear the juice.
So repeat your question one more time, just so I can
Like the biggest
refresh.
lessons, like the hardest lessons going into
Hardest
this.
lessons. Biggest and hardest lessons. That's a thought-provoking question. Um, I think the biggest lesson for me is that you have to show up, because if you want to command your life, if you want to have that level of control, you have to show up for yourself. And if you don't show up for yourself, you're the only one that suffers. So with more freedom comes more responsibility, right? It's not just, you're off on a beach in Thailand. They make it seem like that's what life is like because that's the dream that they're trying to sell you. They need when you understand copywriting and marketing, you understand that there needs to be a dream state that you can sell, right? Um, I'm not saying that's not achievable. It absolutely is, but when you're starting out, it's not like that. You got to put in the sweat equity. You got to put in the work and the effort. For example, like social media management, the way I got my clients was cold walking. I spent money on gas to show up at businesses. That's where I live. It's 15, everything is 15, 20, sometimes 30 minutes away. And so I'd have to spend money on gas, show up like a teenager, all nervous and stuff, voice cracking and stuff, to try and sell them on my service. And it was very intimidating. But then after I did 3 or 4 cold walk-ins, I'm like, all right, well, I got nothing to lose. Let's just go in, say what I think they need help with. Um, and then say, okay, like I'll do this for you. I want money. And that's it. I got rejected like every other entrepreneur does when they start out every single time until that one client said yes. And that one client was pivotal to my trajectory as an entrepreneur. But the thing that was most, or I guess, yeah, that was most vital throughout this entire process is the fact that I showed up. Because
Mm.
after 10 rejections, I could have quit, be like, oh, I'm not cut out for this. This isn't for me. But I just kept going because this is what I wanted. And I had no other option. And sometimes, actually, here's another lesson. So it's kind of contradictory. I believe you have unlimited options in life, but you need to pick one thing and make it seem like you have no other options in life if you want to be successful, right? You can't say, oh, I'm going to try this for a month, but if it doesn't pan out, okay, I'm going to move on to the next thing because there's 20 other opportunities that these people are selling to me online. It doesn't work like that. You got to stick to something, show up consistently for that one thing until you learn something from it that you can either iterate upon or branch out into something else, leveraging that learning lesson. Um, that's something that's very important, showing up, staying consistent. Um, Communication, I would say, when it comes to sales, that was a very big lesson. You need to learn how to actually communicate your service, communicate, uh, or communicate your understanding of their pain, of their problems, and how you can actually solve them. That was a big thing. I guess organizing your time is a big thing. You're gonna
Mm.
take full control. You got to control every minute of it, effectively.
Yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
think showing up is such a huge thing. Like a lot of people create this kind of, I guess, idea about online business that it's like a get rich quick thing. Like you just go in, bam, 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 and then you're a millionaire. And this creates like these expectations that, you can be lazy, but it's not like a real business where you see people like Elon Musk sleeping in the warehouse and working 14 hours a day or something. We kind of go in there and we think, all right, like I'm just gonna do a little bit and then magically the money's gonna appear. But especially at the
Yeah.
beginning, it's super important. And I remember there were times where like just because I was doing okay and I was like, I have some clients and stuff, I can chill now. And then the chilling turned into not showing up, which turned into, losing the traction in my business and being like, oh, now I don't have clients and I don't have money and I don't have new projects and I don't know where things are gonna, like, where clients are gonna come from. So that was a big lesson for me, like learning that it's not a get rich quick scheme. And I lost like thousands of dollars, which I wasn't supposed to lose because they were my university. That was my university grant. But I was like, let me just invest it into the Forex market. And bear in mind,
Oh,
like people like spend their entire lives trying to learn how to navigate and how to invest and how to like navigate the market, the stock market. And there I was, like 22-year-old, yeah,
yeah.
22-year-old, just being like, I'm just gonna throw my money in there and become a millionaire. Like it doesn't work like that. It really doesn't work like that. And it doesn't work like that with freelancing. It doesn't work like that with email marketing. It doesn't work like that with anything. Like we always need to show up and we need to do our work and we need to be consistent. Otherwise the business just dies. It's kind of like a garden that you need to keep watering with your attention and time. And
Absolutely. And it's not their fault because this is what's portrayed to us all the time. Just like when we started, you saw the ad from a guy in Thailand, but he's showing you after all the work that he's put in, what his life is like. And that's what everyone does because that's how you sell. That's how you sell things. People don't want to be told the harsh truth or the harsh reality of what it takes when you're starting out. And and we're not saying that, you know, that type of stuff is not achievable. It absolutely is. But the difference between someone who becomes a millionaire in their first year and someone who doesn't, there's too many factors that come into play that you have control of and that you don't have control of because each person's circumstances are different. And on top of that, sometimes people don't want to become millionaires. They want a lifestyle business.
yeah.
And that's perfectly normal too. Like if you want to travel all the time, then you naturally will probably not be able to put in 14-hour days. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then there might be someone who they love the work they do, so they execute on the work every day and it brings them fulfillment. And I guess to accentuate how many different factors there are, to use myself as an example, when I was single, I worked 90-hour weeks, 100-hour weeks, playing semi-pro soccer and running my agency full time with a team of five. Once I got into a relationship, things changed. I can't put in a 90 to 100-hour work weeks. And so that's just one little factor. One little change in my life brought me from working really hard consistently all the time to dialing things back, which was very necessary in my life at the time. If you guys want to learn more about that story, watch another video on the cookies and email or whatever. Um, I go a little bit deeper into that story, but that's just one factor. And you'd be foolish to think that the amount of factors that contribute to your success are very few, and that's the wrong way to think about things, right?
Mm.
There's so many things that we control and we don't control, and they do play a role in your success. Um, but yeah, it's just that's how it is. You have to stay in your own lane. That's actually a massive lesson is stay in your own lane. Understand what your goals are. Don't have the goal, I want to make 10,000 a month because that's what everyone says in the ads. It's so cliche. Why do you want $10,000 a month? What are your actual expenses? Are your actual expenses $2,000 a month? Okay, why do you need 10?
Mm.
Okay, are you
And also
supporting
like
family or what?
if you don't have the financial literacy to manage $10,000, that can be a curse, not a blessing. I
Exactly.
always think that like if we want more, we need to learn how to manage the little we have. Um, and I always think like it's a blessing for having less until you're able to deal with more because people you hear about this all the time, like somebody wins the lottery.
And they lose it.
They
They
go
lose
and
it.
buy a mansion that they can't pay for. Like 2 months down the line, all the money is gone. They're like, oh, the bill is $4,000 for electricity, and I can't pay this because they don't know. And that's why, for example, a lot of professional athletes they hire financial advisors. They literally have somebody managing every single penny of their money because they have no clue. Their
Mhm.
career is, they're an athlete, they're a professional athlete. They have no interest or, they just don't have the time to learn how to manage millions of dollars. So they prefer to pay somebody who knows. And I think also this is like for the people that, for example, are dreaming of having huge businesses and stuff, a lot of them just need to, like, they end up hiring the right people because you can get by yourself to a certain level. And obviously, as a beginner, like, you just need to be realistic about where you can get by yourself. And you can get pretty far by yourself, but then at a certain point, I think it comes down to that where you're like, okay, I need to either collaborate with the right people or hire the right people that know the things that I cannot do. And now, for example, when it comes to investing like in the stock market, if I was to put money in the stock markets again, I would just put it in an index fund because I'd be like, well, somebody else has done the research that I cannot do. So
Yeah.
I just prefer to do it this way. Um, and that's kind of how we have to look at it as well. Like if you don't know certain things, you need to find the right person And sometimes, yeah, it's a collaboration, or um it's hiring somebody. But I actually had another question for you, because you kind of mentioned the previous video, and I was thinking about that, like your story, where you said, like, obviously you spent some time in a hospital and you were thinking about things, and that kind of pivoted your career. So I wanted to ask you, because I don't think I've ever actually asked you, like, what were you thinking about? And how much time did you have to think?
Like 11 months.
Right.
Uh, so when you have 11 months to think, you think about a lot of things.
Mm.
I feel like that's obvious. Um, One of the main things that I thought about was the past, specifically when I was a kid, and just remembering, like, what did this little boy want? What did he want out of life? And it's very simple. He enjoyed having the ball at his feet, and he enjoyed being around his friends and family. And it wasn't necessarily that I was thinking about new things, but I was reflecting. Um, and then I thought about, okay, like what happened when I started getting into business? Like, yeah, I was playing soccer. I was getting paid to play soccer. Uh, it was semi-pro, so not a massive amount. Uh, that was another reason for going into business, was to be able to support myself financially to a higher level, because I just wanted that high level of everything. Um, and so I reflected on that. I was like, okay, well, what was my life like then and there? Like, did I legitimately control it? And the answer was no, because the only thing that ever mattered to me, and as you know, like I'm a minimalist, just like you are. The only thing that really mattered to me was having the ball at my feet, and being with my friends and family. And I always told everyone, it's like, because people used to ask me, like, what do you want to do when you grow up? I'm a professional soccer player. It's like, and if you don't do that, then I'll be a guy under the bridge playing with the ball. That's it. Like, there's nothing more to life. For me at that point, right? Um, and so when I thought about what I had built, and what had led me to the point of, getting sick and just pretty much being completely debilitated, and even at moments having my body non-functional, where I couldn't walk, I couldn't move my arms or anything. So it's like, okay, well, soccer's out of the question. I can't even be an athlete. So what is life really about? And it just brought me to the main point again. It's family and friends. It's the people that you go through life with. Um, and so I reflected on the business. It was like, okay, I'm putting in 90 to 100-hour weeks. Yes, a ton of money was made. Yes, I could go do things. I looked cool with my friends because whenever we went out to eat, I could take care of it. Um, that's a big thing for me. I love food. Um, and so that's really what I reflected on. And the thing that took a lot of my time as well is I started studying the Bible. My gateway into that was The Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren,
Which is a
and
good book, by the way.
really good book.
Recommended.
um, and so that's what I did. And then when I started reading the Bible, I was like, oh, as I was trying to play God in my world and my story, which was to have full control of everything. And that's not how I am now. I have surrendered control. I simply am a vessel, I am a servant, and I take the actions necessary, right? But when I was running the Facebook ads agency, that's not how life worked. I was in full control of everything. And of course, I think there's a lot of great things that came out of that, um, because naturally, I say it all the time. I am an extremist. I will either do something to the fullest extent or I don't do it at all. That's how it's been with everything, relationship, sport, whatever. I'm fully committed when I'm committed. If I'm not committed, I'm not there. Um, and so the event that happened when I was a child that led me to that moment of wanting full control of everything, it allowed me to learn a lot of great things, build a lot of great skills, but at the expense of my health, at the expense of my relationships, at the expense of my internal peace. Um, I'm very good at coming off very relaxed, very like I can, what's it called when you put like a front up?
Um,
I
oh,
feel like
there's
there's
a
a
fancy
specific word
word
for it.
for
Yeah.
my what are the I don't know.
I don't know. I'm very good at I'm very I guess I'll use it this way. I don't think this is the right word, but I'm very good at controlling people's perception of me.
Mm.
Okay. If I
Facade,
am
facade.
if I am very broken internally,
Mm.
no one would have ever known. Okay. If I'm super overwhelmed, no one would know. That is how I lived my life for the entirety of running that agency at a grand scale because I just couldn't let people perceive me that way. I had to have the control and I had to control my emotions. My composure is what I had to control. I learned that through sport. It's like if you can't control your composure or keep your composure in the field, something bad's going to happen. You're going
Mm.
to do something that affects the team negatively. Um, so I was very good at keeping my composure for everything. But doing that and not sharing any of the hardships with anyone, not even your team, uh, it just eats you up. And that's essentially what happened to me. And I had a lot of things that were eating me up inside that I knew to an extent, it's like, okay, there's a better way to do this. But what happens if I share this with someone, like my team members, and say, I need help with this? Will that be a good perception or a bad perception? And so reading the Bible, I reflected a lot on those type of things. It's like, no, when people come together, things grow, things are more peaceful. You know, when you have the community, everyone is leaning on each other, essentially. Where one person falls, the other person will pick them up, right? Um, so that's what I thought a lot about. Was just really reflecting on the past and then understanding what I wanted more for my future. Because at this time, I still wanted to play professionally, and that was my biggest goal. It's like, okay, I need to get my body back into shape. I need to make it functional to how it used to be. Because I couldn't even, when I was okay enough to go out on my own, I couldn't even do a pull up.
Mm.
And not because
Same. I'm very healthy and I can't do a pull-up.
yeah, it's not because I wasn't fit or anything. It was like if you looked at my body, you see that there is a substantial amount of muscle.
Mm.
Um, but I couldn't because it affected me very poorly. It would cause all these things to happen within my body, and I would end up losing feeling in certain parts, and it was just a very terrible experience. And so I would immediately go into like panic mode, and I'd call my girl, be like, "Take me to the apartment. I can't do this." Um, and so that was my biggest goal. It's like I need to do this. But then after studying the Bible more and understanding purpose and all of that, I realized that okay, this thing that I wanted, if it's not going to happen in a way that's aligned with my values, then this isn't my calling anymore, right?
Yeah.
Because at one point in time, it was a way to bring a lot of wealth to the family. Um, but at my age of 22, when I was facing all of that, it just wasn't anymore. It's like, okay, let's say I go play and I sign for this team that I was about to sign for, which was in Europe, and I would get, I think, like 30 days of like vacation that where I could leave the country. I think I would get like 45 to 60 days, but the other 30, the other 15 to 30 would have to be in the same town for training purposes. Um, I was like, what kind of life is that? Even if I make all the money, what's it like to put all the family to come visit me all the time on a 12-hour flight, 14-hour flight? It's not sustainable. And as much as I know that they would do it, it's not a way to live life because then we're completely cut off, and that's just my circumstance, right? I don't think anyone would want to move, like to bring my entire family. I don't think anyone would want to do that. To enjoy their life and they like where they're at right now. So it's like if I want to be close to my family because that's the most important thing to me, then I need to shape my business into a way that is aligned with those values.
Mm. I
And
yeah.
yeah, so I just reflected on it and I ended up landing back on marketing. Wanted to do programming because that was something I did on my off time. Um, and being at the point where it's like all I could do was sit at my desk at a computer, not have to talk to people. I was like, I'll do that. I'm pretty chill with that. But then I just kept landing back on marketing and because that was my strong suit and I enjoy it. But with the Bible next to me, it helped me to understand that I can do this the right way and still achieve that financial success or the financial goals that I want to achieve. But it'll be even better because it'll actually impact people's lives, right? Not, oh, buy my $2,000 course so you can feel super overwhelmed for the next 6, 12 months and give up and then try
And
another
join
thing.
me in hospital.
So,
I think
so
it's
yeah,
a huge thing. Like a lot of people, I really relate to what you said about like playing God in our own lives, like especially when we get into business. So, like when you look at it, like our reason to get into online business is to have more control. But then what we get into is this false idea that we are literally the God in our own life, or we put money in that place, or we put social status as the number one in our lives. And then you see a lot of people chasing that, and the detrimental effect it has on people's minds is crazy. Because when you put something like money as the most important thing in your life, well, guess what? The moment that's gone, you are messed up. You are
yeah,
messed up. You feel like a complete failure. You feel super lost. You feel so much pressure to build it back up. So, in my family, there's a bit of a thing about money where it kind of somehow we learn to equate it to self-worth. So that's how it became like if you wanted to prove that you're a good person or that you're worthy, you had to come with money or you had to make something out of yourself. And then that leads a lot of people to, and my family is not the only one that like went through this. Like I think this happens a lot. And then I had to personally do a lot of unwinding to like separate my self-worth from money to understand that having a successful business or being successful in life can look in many different ways. And I now learned that, the character is actually what makes us um more worthy than money, for example. Not that I think um like I don't want to say that we even have to like earn anything. Like we just have to be good people and do our best and use the skills that we have to contribute to the world. Or, that's how I want to think about it. And it's not necessarily that, we have to earn our way into anything, into being respected and whatever, like, or, just having basic human dignity and feeling like people accept us because that just kind of comes natural or should come natural. But putting money or social status or things like that and tying it directly to your self-worth is one way of basically dragging yourself into a pit that's very difficult to get out of. um so yeah, that's one thing. And two, like being able to do business and combine it with faith is something that brings a different dimension into it, where everything that you do, because for example, a lot of people, they start working online and they have so many tasks, and they're really trying to, for example, get their first client, so they're doing all these things, and then it becomes a chore and it becomes heavy and it becomes like it starts impacting the way they feel about themselves because it feels like they can't do it or they're not good enough. But if you're doing something and you have a bigger purpose for it, like every small task is a big pleasure. You're just like, okay, I'm doing this little thing. And yeah, maybe it's not the most fun thing in the world, but at the same time, you do it with faith and you do it with a bigger purpose. So then it is fun and it becomes something that feels like, you know, yeah, it's pleasurable, like it's enjoyable. You just do it for the bigger purpose, which makes sense. I don't know. Do you feel
Absolutely.
that as well? Like when you're doing the little things? Because I've gotten to this state where even if I'm like typing an email or ticking off my to-do list or writing my to-do list, like I just have so much joy in it because I understand like the bigger purpose of it. And it feels like I'm contributing to something so beautiful. Whereas before, like sending out cold emails used to be like, "Oh, I hate doing that." Like you know how much I hated like
Yeah.
client acquisition. But now I actually enjoy it. And I'm like, like I relax into it and I'm doing it with so much joy because I understand like the bigger goal that isn't money, that isn't social status, that isn't nothing to do with nothing materialistic.
Yeah, absolutely. I have definitely experienced what you're sharing because before I still operate just out of discipline. But the difference before and now is like those things that I don't like, the repetitive, boring tasks, uh, you understand the bigger meaning behind them. And you're just chilling. Like you said, you relax into it and it's a peaceful process. Where before
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, I gotta knock this out in 30 minutes. Let's do this. I'm trying to do it rapidly, and it's just, first of all, it's not your best work. And then second, it's just like becomes mundane or overwhelming because then it's just on a repeat every single day. And I think
Mm,
that's another big thing to share is when you approach it from this way, where you understand that there's a bigger purpose behind it, you're going to put your best foot forward because you're never going to want to put a 7 out of 10 effort. You're always going to want to put a 10 out of 10 effort in everything that you do, from writing an email to a cold email to actually servicing your clients
mm.
or whatever it is that you do, right? And so that's very important. And I think that's a very healthy mindset to have is when you come from a place of service, you're always going to do your absolute best, right? Nothing less.
I read something today. Actually, yeah, it was this morning. I was reading out, funnily enough, like Rick Warren's daily devotional, and in there he said, everything that you do, like whether it's your work and whether you're a rubbish collector or the CEO of a huge corporation, everything that you do, if you come with this mindset of serving God, then it just becomes so much easier to do and so much fun. And I've gotten into this habit, like even if I'm, yeah, and also I know somebody, it's a friend of mine who I met like in Mexico maybe 2 years ago now. And he told me like, yeah, even if I'm like cleaning the toilet, I'm like singing and enjoying it. And so his personal, like he was I don't think he's a Buddhist, but maybe he, yeah, I don't know which kind of, what is which faith he follows or like what's his
Like what
background.
he practices. Yeah.
Yeah, but he said, yeah, I would just sing like my little songs to God when I was like doing whatever I was doing and like enjoying it and using it as an act of servitude. And I think that's huge. And like he changed my like he was the first one to like plant the seed. And then as I got into studying the Bible as well, like in more depth and reading Rick Warren stuff as well. I feel like Rick Warren should sponsor this this video. But yeah, I realized, wow, it's so cool. And also sometimes in the task where I don't have enough strength or where I feel like, oh, this is boring, or I don't know how to do this, or even sometimes when I'm at the gym and I'm like running and I'm like, oh, okay, I want to do like 10 more minutes. Like I dedicate this, I dedicate it to God. I'm like, come on, like let's do it. And then that gives you like more energy and you just do it with a smile. And it's crazy what it can do. Um, so yeah, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. And I recommend that everybody like finds a deeper purpose in what they do. Um, Especially yeah, when you I think also for like people that are new into business, like if they come in with the wrong idea, like just chasing the money, it's a very short-lived adventure. Like it
The
ends.
wrong intention.
Yeah, exactly. And it just ends quicker than it starts, and it's usually like a crash, like what you experienced, right? Like it was
Yeah.
a moment where you were chasing that. Well, you were chasing maybe not the money, but like you had your own reasons that were not for a bigger purpose. And in the end, um, life always like brings us to a moment where we can reflect, and it's a blessing that you had that 11 months. Um, but yeah, I've also been through situations like that. So I feel like it's good to share this with people, and so that when they do start in like going into the space, they can actually reflect on it beforehand. So they go in with the right attitude and like kind of knowing, okay, I need to find my bigger purpose so that I don't end up heading a long way, but down the wrong way. That
Yeah,
makes sense.
no, absolutely. And, it just goes hand in hand with the fact that you stay in your own lane. Stay
Mm,
in your own lane, figure out what's important to you.
yeah.
Don't, take what people are shoving down your throat, $10,000 a month. Like, no, you don't need $10,000 a month. In fact, I this might be what's it called? A hot take. Um, People in the US, you don't need $10,000 to survive. Your lifestyle is most likely inflated if you are
Mm,
living in North America and you say you need $10,000 a month. I guarantee you, because I have lived with 1,000, 2,000, I have lived with much more, and there's no difference. Okay. I can say that as a single person and as someone that's been in a relationship. Now, as someone with kids, it's a different story. I can't speak on that. But generally, with $5,000 a month, you're surviving, right? And maybe having a little bit extra if you're smart with your money. If you're not, then yeah, you might tell yourself, oh, I need $10,000 a month. I would say first, gain some financial literacy, figure out what really is it that are essential to your life. Have you been smart with your money? Where can you, detract certain money from? Where can you expel more money into that will actually be uh, productive for you?
mm.
And then from there determine, okay, how much money do I need to live the life that I want based on my current circumstance?
Yeah, and I think if people learn, like, I think what the world needs is like people that know how to use their money in this economy to make this world a better place. So if you're like the way I think about myself, we're both minimalists, so you will understand this. Like, I know I don't need a lot. Like, I can survive on very little. Like, I don't really care about having a lot of money. Like, I want to have my basics covered. But then I think, you know, with the extra money, what can I do? Like, how can I contribute? What is the, because we have a lot of people in this world who have money, but that money goes towards, just buying expensive things and again, social status and luxuries and all that stuff, or just inflated expenses. Like they are surviving at $10,000. Like they're just covering their groceries, their car payments, and whatever else at $10,000, which is wasteful. Like if you are not tracking your expenses and you don't know where the money is, that means probably you have a lot of your money is just going to places where it should, like to places that it shouldn't be going to. But I think what we would benefit from is if people started thinking about how can they use their money to contribute to the world to make it a better place. And I don't necessarily mean charity. It could be having a huge business that's serving people, that's making a difference. If you um there's just so much that money can do. And money is power, and we can use it in the right way. So I think for me, like personally, the next like chapter of my life is learning, like, okay, what can I do with money? How can I use money to to serve the world in a better way. And I could just like kind of ignore it and be like, it's okay, like I just do my thing and I save and I whatever do what everyone else is doing. But I feel like, if we have the capacity to or like the capability to make a lot of money, then we definitely should be learning like how to use it in a way that's aligned with our values, which in our case is servitude. So I feel like if you want to make $1 million, like, yes, you can and do it if you have this desire in your heart, but learn like what you're going to do with that money. Because it's great to have like lots of people that are entrepreneurial, that can make money, that can gather resources, but then they also need to turn into people that know how to use them wisely. and not just gather them and hoard them. We don't need that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I want to touch on a point that you made. Well, first of all, I want to say it's not one or the other. It's not you have to serve and make a bunch of money and contribute your money. It's not that you have to make a little bit of money, but it's just having that balance. And whatever that balance is to you as a person, figure it out. Uh, want to share an example. I have a friend who makes about 30 to 50,000 a month. And he likes nice things. Like he's a car guy, so he likes modifying his car. The other day he texted me, he's like, "Oh, I just spent like 4 grand on parts." And someone stole them from my door because I guess people are going around his neighborhood and stealing like Amazon packages and stuff, and they took them from his door. He didn't get it in
So
time.
mean. That's mean. Like
Yeah,
imagine you're waiting for your Amazon package, so excited. And then
it's like,
Amazon's like, "You delivered." You get out there and it's gone. That's so mean.
yeah. And so that happens, and what did he do? He's just like, oh, I just ordered more parts. And it's because he has the ability to do so. He has the freedom to make that decision based on the amount of money he makes. Now, is that all he does with his money? Absolutely not. He does a lot with it, and he is a faith-based person like us. So he does a lot with it in that regard. Um, but I share this because there are people that like their nice things, right? Like
Mm.
you and I, we don't care about the
And we
materialistic
don't
things.
get it. We probably don't even get it, like because we don't take any pleasure from it. We don't understand why others do, maybe. I don't know. Like sometimes I see it and I'm like, yeah, okay, like this is nice, but I know like for example, I've received like expensive gifts from people. And at first you're like, oh my God, like I know how much this is worth.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, that thing is like somewhere. Like I
Yeah,
don't care. Like I leave it in someone's house or like I leave it with a friend or I give it to somebody because it has no value for me.
exactly.
Like to me, it's just another thing. But I understand like some people are really into like designer things and they really like Google or like they research how it was made and how it was designed and
Yeah.
just love it. Like they smell the leather and they're like, wow, this is just amazing. And I was like, yeah, just another thing.
Yeah, so I mean that's how it is. Like that's why I shared this story of my friend because he knows what he likes. Like he legitimately enjoys taking a car apart and putting it back together. He enjoys modifying it. He enjoys driving it and hearing the rumble of the car. And like he took me drifting in his car once, and I apparently he did like a 2 out of 10 effort for drifting, but I was already like fearing for my life. Um, but it's like he enjoys those things. So if you know that you enjoy these things, like you have a legitimate joy, a pleasure with these things, with designer clothes, because you actually like designer clothes, you're not trying to prove a point to anyone, then
Yeah.
bank that into the amount of money you want to make. It's like, okay, I want to spend, maybe starting out, you're like, I want to spend 2,500 a month on nice things. I like
Mm,
to eat at a very nice restaurant. I like to get some designer clothes, whatever. Do it. Put that into your goal, like include that in your monetary goal. We're not telling you to sacrifice one thing and do another. We're not telling you how to control your money. We're just simply telling you to reflect on
mm,
what is important to you, what is of value to you. Okay, there might be some other people that they love traveling. They want to go on a weekend trip once a month, right? Let's say just that. It's a couple or maybe you have a family and you want to set one weekend every month to just have a family trip. Bank that into your monetary goal, all right? But I wanted to make that point and share that example because that's how he is. Like he makes 30 to 50,000 a month. Um, and his goal is to, do much more just for the sake of playing this entrepreneurial game. But then even that, it's like I question him all the time. It's like, why do you want to? He wants to do 8 figures. Uh, and I was like, why do you want to do that? It's like, oh, because my town, which I've been to, it's a very small town. He wants to build a bunch of apartments,
mm,
develop a lot of apartments there because what they currently have is not nice. They're not well maintained, and also they're price gouging. And he's like, I want to provide affordable housing to people our age with nice apartments. And he's just like, I just need a bunch of money, and then I'm gonna have to get some investors as well. I'm like, all right, that makes sense. Like, you are going to make a crop load of money. but you're also doing something good with it and you're still getting the choice you want, you know?
Yeah.
I I am a big believer that you should find something that you enjoy and allocate some sort of money to it because you are going to experience stress. You are going to be overwhelmed at times. You need an outlet that you legitimately enjoy. And if it costs money, then so be it. But don't do stuff for the sake of others and, oh, I want this Gucci belt because people would think higher of me. It's like, no, you got
Mhm.
to have your own, you got to understand your value internally and
Yeah.
not try to attain that from others through materialistic items, right?
Yeah. That's also part of the reason why I deleted Instagram because I realized that sometimes we start doing something and then it becomes like a part of our public persona. And then it's kind of like we end up having to like keep up with it just for the sake of the public that we
Yeah.
have. So, for example, for me, one of the things was travel. Like I became known as the travel girl. Like I'm always traveling, I'm always in a cool place, I'm always on the beach, I'm always around people, I'm always partying. And like at first I was sharing the stories because I was like, yeah, I just want to share with the world. And then I realized it became a habit. And then I realized, okay, when I'm not traveling, I feel the pressure of showing something cool that
Right.
I'm doing something, but it's like sometimes I'm literally not doing anything. Like I have nothing to show. But then I realized, this pressure and this constant like habit in the back of my mind, was just weighing me down. I was like, okay, I don't need that. I need a detox. Like I became a social media addict. And, also got to a point where people would like be talking to me and they would say to me like, oh, okay, like where are you going next? And I'll be like, oh, I'm going to this place. And I'm like, oh wow, cool, I'm gonna keep an eye out on your stories. And I was like, people literally like lived through my stories as well. But then also I had some friends who in deeper conversation said to me, I feel like when I watch your like the things that you post on Instagram, I feel like I'm such a boring person
Mm.
because I see everything that you're doing and I'm here in the same place for the past 6 years. And I realized actually I was making some people feel pretty crap. So I was like, okay, like there's just nothing positive coming out of it except for like a few smiles and whatever. Um, and I imagine like for example, if somebody starts off like that, like, oh, I'm making money, I'm gonna buy the nicer car and buy the nicer clothes so that everybody can see I'm making more money, then it builds into the same thing, right? Okay, like I should get another nicer car or a nicer house or I don't know, the next best thing just to show people that I'm doing good. But it's like, we can't just take that internally and be like, yeah, the whole world doesn't need to know. I don't need an audience. Like I'm just gonna do my thing. And that's
Exactly.
again going back to the stay in your lane. If you know your place, you know your lane. It doesn't really matter what people think of you. Like we need to learn to detach ourselves from other people's thoughts. But that ties neatly into the next point. A lot of us don't have like a community, or we're not surrounded by people who are successful in online business, or not everyone has successful copywriter friends or successful ecom friends or whatever. And some of us are more fortunate. Now, I know that recently you went to the copywriting event, which I don't know the name of. I forgot.
Yeah,
And
they don't get
you
free brand deals.
yeah, yeah. And you got to talk to a few people there. Um that were all, some of them are super successful, others were just getting started, others were somewhere in the middle. And we talked about it like after the event. Um but I wanted to ask you what was the like most interesting thing that you heard at that event or took out of conversations with people. And the event was basically, it was like a summit.
Um, so this is like the first kind of time I've ever done something like this.
Mm.
Um, I'm just now starting to enter this stage of like networking and stuff. Uh, But this event, yeah, it was geared around copywriting. Essentially, it was just for people to connect, right? High level people to connect. Um, there are people that quote unquote starting out, but they're doing very well starting out, much better than when I was starting out. Um, and yeah, there's people that came from all over. A lot of A-listers or
Mm,
A-listers in the space. Um, a lot of people from different countries like Mexico, Europe. Europe's a continent, I know that, but European countries and whatnot. And I mean, everything was interesting. The biggest thing I took out of that was building a community
mm,
because it was one of the first times that I entered an environment where people were similar to me. Because the guy who hosted the event uh, reflects that in his persona. It's just someone who cares, who comes from a place of service and whatnot. So the people that came were naturally that way, and that's something that I gotta give credit to. Even though you don't know who it is, and we're not going to say who it was, but um, unless they want to sponsor this video with $1 million, um, it was. I think that was the biggest thing was community. And
mm.
for example, like there's a couple of guys that I met, took back to the Airbnb that I was staying at, and we did something that I hadn't experienced at that point in 10 years. And that was going on the street and playing soccer barefoot. Because here in the US, no one does that. No one wants to play on the street. They want to play on the nicest field. They want to do all this shit. And so that was an experience that I hold very close to my heart because I finally went to, or I entered an environment where people, yes, like some of these people were making $1 million a month and they didn't give a shit. They go on the street. Oh, we don't, I'm wearing really nice shoes. I can't mess these up. All right, take them off. We played barefoot. We all cut our feet off. We were all bleeding on our feet playing for like 3 hours. But they were humble enough to do that and not be like all, you know, what's the word, posh and trying to act all proper and whatnot. It's like, no, we're
Lovey.
like, yeah, we make a lot of money, but that doesn't mean we can't enjoy life for what it is.
Mm.
Um, that was something that was actually a big takeaway from me is that there are a group of people that do things the right way, live life authentically, but also work very hard to achieve their goals. Um,
That's such
Interesting
a
things.
huge thing though, because a lot of people, especially when they're starting out, they like you can have somebody who, and it doesn't matter who you are. Like if you're just starting out and then you think about a business owner that you would be, for example, pitching your service to, and you think that they're like way, way, way above you, and you should come to them like
Bowing
bowing
down.
down and losing any self-respect that you have for yourself and any boundaries just because you're new to freelancing. It doesn't matter if you're young, if you're old, if you have a professional background, if you're a student, whatever, like at the end of the day, you need to remember like everybody is just a human being. Like if we're stripped of everything that we have, we're not different at all. And just because somebody has, a successful business and they're looking to hire you, they want to hire somebody who doesn't just, doesn't come from this place of like lack of self-worth, but they want to hire a business partner and equal, someone who contributes to the business and who can be confident and independent in what they do. And especially in like, if you're offering copywriting services or email marketing services, you want to be independent in what you do and you want to be a strategic partner in what in within a business, and you want to be somebody who's valuable beyond just typing an email or whatever. Like you really want to come in as an equal and you really want to bring value into the business. And if you come from a place of feeling like you just need to get the gig and shut up and do your work and have nothing to do with the business owner because there's no way in the world that they would want to be friends with you. That's wrong. Like they not probably, they need to like you first in order to hire you. And you need to build a relationship with them before trying to get into their business. Like if you're looking for a long-term collaboration, that relationship is going to take you much further than just your skill. So networking and building relationships, huge thing. And yeah, just understanding that even if someone's super successful, they're still a human being.
Yeah, I want to expand on that point. Everyone is the same, truly. And to illustrate this, so I should have done my homework more prior to showing up to the event to understand who's going to be there, who they are, what they've done, because there's very big people. There were copywriters in there that are like the OG copywriters of the entire industry, producing millions, billions worth of sales. Um, and it's funny because during that event, I met someone. He's actually based out of Mexico, and we're going to spend some time together at some point. But we built a really good relationship, and he's a copywriter. Uh, he's not like an A-list copywriter, but he does this for a living, it's full time, and he has his own clients. Very great copywriter. He is very deep in the copywriting space. He knows about everyone, all the like OG A-listers, whatever. And I remember on the first or second day, there is a table that I was sitting at uh, with other people that I thought, they're just other people attending the event. I don't know who these people are. Um, and then I was thinking, I was like, oh, wait, you and I had met a couple, not you and I, Adriana, but like the guy and I, we had met a few other people that the day before. Let's go sit with them so we can, foster that relationship. And he was like, oh, no, no, let's just stay here at this table. And I'm like, are you sure? He's like, yeah, yeah, just stay here with me, please. And I was like, all right. And, spent the day at that table with these people, having conversations, um, not even talking about copywriting or business, but like talking about life, like how this one guy loves water rafting and that's like his new hobby. This other guy, one of the most important things to him is the Bible and spreading the word of God. Um, there's this other guy, he loves cooking, but he's been studying like Latino cuisine. He was a white guy, he's studying Latino cuisine. And so we all just went around the table just talking about these things and then, just talked about our hobbies and all this, like not even business. And like these are really cool people. Like we had conversations with them for maybe a few hours. Incredible people. Um, and they all introduced me to them and I still like we all introduced ourselves to each other and nothing registered in my mind because I didn't do my homework. I didn't know who these people were, anything. I'm not deep in the copywriting space as some other people are. And maybe that worked to my advantage because I could have a casual conversation with these people and not fanboy over them or whatever. But then later I found out through my friend that I had originally met on the first night, the reason why he wanted to stay at that table was to network with these guys because these were like the big time A-list copywriters in the space, like big, big time. I'm not going to call them out by name, but I can say just at that table, billions was produced just from the written word from them for massive companies. And and I was like, oh, it makes sense why you wanted to stay at that table. Like I didn't, because I kept pushing. I was like, let's go, you know, treat the people that we met the other day with respect and foster that relationship, which we still ended up doing. But that was like a big opportunity for him there to network with these high level copywriters. And I'm new to networking, so I didn't necessarily pull their information or anything. Plus, I didn't really know who they were, so I had no interest or desire in uh, asking for their direct information like that. But my buddy did. And it was just that one moment we had casual conversations about life, hobbies, and he now has the phone number and emails of these high-level copywriters that they have said, if you need anything, please reach out. We love like that you're like a bright mind, you're a young up and coming copywriter. We'd love to support you in anything that you need. And so I just wanted to share that story because first, these people that you think are massive, they're normal people.
Mm.
And the people that are like legitimately massive, which these guys were, like very, very massive in the space, like right now, if you wanted to call them up, they charge 100 grand for an hour of their time. Um, they are the same as us. They just want to have a nice conversation with people. They want to connect with other human beings and talk about similar interests or debate on certain things, right? So that's number one. And number two is that networking is very powerful. Inserting yourself into an environment where you have the opportunity to build your own community. Out of that table, I took one guy's information and it was specifically the guy that uh, shared his passion for spreading the word of God. Because to me, I saw an older gentleman who was very wise, successful in business, with family, his marriage, and I was like, I'd like to learn more from him. The other guys didn't collect their information or share my information with them just because our interests weren't really attuned with each other. If I had known that they were big, who they were, then I probably would have gone in for the wrong reasons of trying to collect information for like, you know, maybe extracting something out of them. There's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it, but I'm glad that I didn't know who they were because now I actually aligned with a person that shares the same value or an interest that we can expand upon.
Mm.
So networking, super powerful, and just remember, like these people are just human beings that want to connect with other human beings. There's nothing more to it. They're
Yeah.
not, you can't put them on a pedestal.
I've actually seen this like um I've been a witness to really awkward situations where so I used to go to a lot of networking events and I even hosted some, and I remember once specifically it was a digital nomads event, and there was a guy there who was in our, like, we all gathered, kind of, we're talking, nobody knew each other, like we just met, and we were just having a conversation, and then we start exchanging Instagrams. And we're just like following each other, and then one of the guys there, like his page was just like, it was very clear from his page that he's like a millionaire, right? Like the super sports cars, whatever, like he was just openly sharing all of that. And before we exchanged Instagrams, everybody was just treating everybody as an equal, we're all just having a laugh, everything. After we after we exchanged the Instagrams, like that guy, like everybody just started treating him differently. Like certain people just got closer to him and were like asking him specific questions. Some people just got intimidated and like moved away. The guy was like, you could see he just felt super awkward. I just like observed it for a moment and I just went to a different circle. I was like, this is turning into a circus. I don't want to be a part of this. And I had a conversation with that guy maybe like 2, 3 days after the event. Like we bumped into each other on the street, and I told him, I was like, that was super weird. And he was like, oh yeah, this happens a lot. Like he was like, you'd be surprised how people treat you when they find out you have money. Like it's a completely different game. Because if you look at him, he doesn't wear like designer stuff or anything. Like he's just a normal guy. But his page is just, it's just very obvious. And he was like, yeah, people just treat me differently when they find out I have money. And it's not what anybody wants. I guess we all want to be treated like just normal.
Yeah,
Then maybe he shouldn't be sharing his Instagram, but that's his choice. Maybe he does it on purpose to filter out the weirdos. And that could be another thing. But yeah, that was just to kind of follow up on the we all just humans. Everybody just wants love and acceptance with whoever we are.
exactly.
And I have one last question for you, and this is a funny one. It just came to me as I was writing down my questions. I was like, I have one that's that would be really interesting to know. It's like one of those like, would you prefer A or B questions? Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready? Or like, would you rather kind of questions.
Okay.
Okay, so wait, let me just okay, yeah. Okay. So, would you prefer, like, if you had to choose between the two? Option A is get $1 billion, but you can never ever touch a computer, any device that's plugged into the internet that's using the internet. So you get $1 billion and it's like live your life, but you can never go online again. Or would you rather if someone took away everything that you have, but you can have internet, you have your laptop and stuff, but you have to start from zero?
I feel like the obvious answer is knowing what I know now, obviously the internet, because I know, well, first of all, do I need $1 billion? No, I don't. I don't. You can take care of, I'm Latino, so my family's massive. And I have divorced parents, so my family has grown even further. I have a girlfriend that I know will be a very long-term relationship, so my family has grown even further. Um, I can confidently say that about 30 to 50 people I can take care of, and that's not even the full extent of the family, but those are like almost immediate circle type people.
Close relative.
Yeah, close relatives.
I have like two relatives in my close circle, just like in my immediate family is like two people.
So with that, I can confidently say if I'm producing 2 to 3 million a year, all those people can be taken care of and live an incredible life because I'm smart with the money. I've learned my lessons. I have learned how to properly allocate funds to particular places. So, do I need $1 billion? Absolutely not. Now, do I want $1 billion? Yes, because something I said as a kid is I will be the poorest billionaire and the first to ever exist because there's a lot of impact I want to have. And for a lot of things, it takes money to do that. And so that's something I've always understood as myself. I thought my vehicle for that would be through sport first, and then from there branch off into other things. Um, but it's different. And so as long as I have access to the internet, if you can make $10 on the internet, you can make 100. If you can make 100, you can make 1,000. If you can make 1,000, you can make 10,000. And it just goes on and on and on. You're simply taking an iterative approach. So obviously I would choose the internet access and a computer, start from scratch. Because once you learn those lessons, no one can ever take them away from you. You make your billion and you lose your billion, and then you don't have access to the internet, and the only way to do it is offline.
Oh,
I'm
you're
sure it's
miserable.
possible. It absolutely is possible. There's multiple billion-dollar companies that before tech was even a thing, but it's going to be much harder. So I'd rather choose the more peaceful route. It's just Wi-Fi, computer, digital stuff, make shit happen, and there you go.
Keep the internets on.
We'll see. We'll see if they stay on forever.
Let's hope. I
That's
watched I think it was, well, I didn't intentionally watch it. Okay, someone was watching it in the room that I was in. This is how I watch TV. Like I'm a passive watcher. Like
right.
someone has to come into the room and turn something on, and I'm like, oh, a movie. I don't have a Netflix subscription. I don't have a Disney subscription. I don't watch anything. So my friend Juan, hi Juan, if you're watching this, he was watching a horror film. And in the horror film, all electricity was cut off. Like some kind of a bug. I don't know what happened. Everything was switched off. There was no internets, okay? No phone calls, no lights, nothing. So that's the worst case scenario. But then I guess at this point it just doesn't matter anymore. Like you can take away the online business because everything else is yeah,
Yeah.
it's a crazy film. So let's hope that doesn't happen. Um,
Yeah.
because then you would be like, damn, I should have taken the billion. I should have taken the billion when Adriana offered it.
No, but even doing online business, like you learn a lot of the principles that they just came from a pre-online world.
Hmm.
And so I'm confident life would be just fine if the internet didn't exist. Just be a little bit harder.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe less scalable. I mean, I don't know. Or you just need more people to do stuff. I feel like the internet makes it leaner in a lot of senses, like in a
Absolutely.
um whereas yeah. But I did hear a lot of stories about people who do it the old-fashioned way. Like even in 2023, they just take a business. Like I watched this interview with a guy who he used to be a rock climber. So he was a professional
Mm.
athlete in rock climbing. I didn't know that was a thing, but apparently it is.
It's
So
wild.
so he said that I think he had an injury or something, and he started cleaning windows because he was like, I have nothing, like, what else am I gonna do? So he started cleaning windows, and then he had so many clients that he hired a guy to help him. And then obviously he was paying the guy, but he was keeping a cut. And then he hired another guy and another guy and another guy, and he's a millionaire now from his window cleaning business. So the internet is not necessary, but
Yeah,
it makes things easier because you're not cleaning windows, you're typing on your keyboard, which is
exactly.
pretty easy.
Much more
So
freedom there. You're not tied down. Just the biggest
exactly.
thing.
And yeah, I mean those are all the questions that I had for today.
Awesome. Well, it was fun answering those questions,
It's fun.
and I'm sure we'll create more videos together, and I look
Yes.
forward to it.
Zoom videos.
Zoom videos. Well, no, when we meet up in Portugal in 2 months
Tomorrow.
now, 2 months, probably almost exactly. We'll meet up there. We'll create content in person for the first
We'll
time.
bring our mics. We'll have to bring our mics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me stop the recording here.
And put my notepad down.